thanks for being here with us today. This is such a joy for Bill and I, because we want to tell the story of Eagle Tower, and you have a personal family connection to it, which is wonderful. So could both of you introduce yourselves? Just tell me who you are. Janet, do you want to go first?
Okay, I'm Janet Krause. I'm married to Itsie, about 56, what?
67.
67. Got married in 1948, so it's a few years. And we're still married, and we're still alive.
That's exactly what I was looking for. Itsie, could you introduce yourself?
Alvin Krause, better known as Itsie Krause. I was born in Montana. I lived in Fish Creek the rest of my life.
Wonderful. That's both good.
And then I helped my dad with the tower. He'd cut the wood off the stubs, that piece, the empty short stubs of woods I pick up, throw them on a little pickup truck.
Let's go back and talk about that again, because that's an important part of the story. But let's start out though with what both of you, Janet, if you could tell me first, what's your earliest memory of Peninsula State Park?
Well, my parents had I was born in Green Bay, so when I came home, our house was right on the corner of the park, and it was in Highway 17, which is now 42, and we'd always take rides in the park, and of course we'd have to go past the tower. So I was very familiar with the tower, and I'd get out and climb it. My legs would shake, and but I loved it. And then my brother came home and he told me that he climbed the tower and he walked around the top, and I said, "You're not eating a fruitcake." That was, yeah, but we still went up and down the tower, but not anything like on top.
We do have an article in the paper.
About all that? Oh, I'll take a look. I'll take a look at that.
It's on the table there.
Itsie, what's your earliest memory of the park?
What is
Cat,
my earliest memories?
Working with my
I
dad.
was asking Itsie what his earliest memories of the park is.
Working with my dad in the park.
Could you talk about that? About who your dad was, what his name was, and what his job was in the park?
Well, Emil Krause, and he was the park carpenter. They used to have some cottages that they'd built. My dad built, and for rentals from before they had the trailer parks. So my dad was the carpenter. I used to go and help him. Help pick up all the scraps. And
so the first tower was built in the teens, and then that was the one that had the guy wires on it, and then that became unstable. So in 1933, they built a new tower that just got taken down a few weeks ago, and so that must be the one that your dad worked on.
Yeah, the first one.
And so could you talk about your memories of your dad working on the tower?
Well, I worked for him all one summer. He said, "Elvin, if you work all summer for me, I'll buy you a bicycle." So I worked all summer, and then when fall come, I got the Sears and Roebuck catalog. Sears, everything, bought everything from the Sears. So I paid $29 for it. It was quite a lot of money.
Sorry to interrupt. So talk about what your dad did, what you remember your dad did on the tower. He was a carpenter. What did he do, and what did you do when you were working for him?
Well, what they did, how they raised the tower, raised the big poles, they would dig a hole with a team of horses. My uncle had the horses for the park when they ever needed horse work. So they dig a big hole, then they put one of the ends in that big hole, and then they'd hook one of those cables up to the team of horses, and then you go ahead and then pull that post up with the cables that they used to brace it afterwards.
And then so that's great. I didn't know that your uncle was involved too with the horses.
Yeah, Uncle Herman.
And then so I presume your dad was doing carpentry or working with the wood, right?
Yeah, my Uncle Herman was a farmer, but he did all the park work, cut along the roads and with the sickle bars. Yeah. So.
And tell us about more about your dad and how you helped him on the tower. What did he have you doing?
Well, I picked up the scraps of wood that they cut off. And so the park had a little pickup truck, and I threw it on a little pickup truck. And we could take it home, or else they gave it to the campers for campfires.
That's great. And Janet, you were Janet a little earlier. You were starting to say, tell us a story about Al Doolittle and about the park. Could you talk about that again?
Well, I got to know Al and his wife real well because they lived across in the first part of the park, and my parents' home was right there at the entrance of the park. So I did get to know him, and Itsie mentioned that his dad built cottages, and they were right across the street from the cottages that my mom had originally built a few years before that. And it was actually, he had it built by the men of the park, and the wood was obtained for building the cottages. So I just remember Al very well, and he was actually competition to us for some time, and every time the doorbell rang, I went running to answer the bell, so that, because in those days you didn't have that many customers coming, so you wanted to get everyone you could. And it was a very exciting time, especially when school was out.
And did you tell me that Janet, that your dad was a mail carrier, right?
Yeah.
And so you said something about you went past the Krause, past Itsie's place, and could you talk about that?
Well, my dad was, he graduated from University of Wisconsin College of Agriculture, and when he came home, he bought a farm. But then he answered an ad that was where they were looking for somebody who wanted to be a mail carrier for the village of Fish Creek, rural mail carrier. And that was the first one that was, that they got through the government. And so my dad was a mail carrier, and he was that for 30 years. And the Krause family was on my dad's mail route, so we got to know them pretty well. And anyway, I did hear a lot of little stories that Grandpa told, and it was the one that I just got such a chuckle out of was Grandpa says, yeah, they brought all those smart fellows up from Madison and to build that tower, and they got up there and they didn't really know what to do. So then Al Doolittle says to Emil, do you think you could construct that tower? And Grandpa said he looked around and he says, yeah, I think I can. And he said, well, you got the job. I thought that was pretty cute. And so Grandpa worked on it and got the job done.
Boy, when they moved game farm out there. Boy, was my dad mad. Those damn politicians from Madison just take it down to Madison. That was very. Every Sunday, all the family would go there to feed the deer and the animals. Boy.
I didn't even know there was a game farm in Peninsula State Park. Did you know that? That's incredible.
Yeah.
So talk about.
But one thing they at least did, they hired all the locals that worked in the game farm. When they moved the game farm out, they took all the helpers out.
Do you remember any stories about who else worked with Emil to build the tower? Were they local boys? And do you remember any stories about that?
Well, later on they got a different carpenter, but he didn't work on the Bob Newberry. But he didn't work on the tower. That's what my dad did.
You both, for all intents and purposes, have lived in Door County your entire lives. What was the tower a place that you would stop by on a Sunday or when you had time off to climb and just enjoy it?
Sunday drives. Everybody takes Sunday drive.
Could you? He's gonna edit me out, so could you say, we drive by the tower just so people know what you're talking about?
They don't go up. The kids go up. Oh yeah, the locals use it. There's a summer thing to do. Take a ride in the park.
Jana, was that true of your family too? Did you used to go to the park and just, as an attraction for?
Well, I lived next to the park, the entrance of the park, so I'd see all these trailers come in to camp for a week or however long they could stay in the park, and it was really exciting to see this, and then when it was time for school to start and that, then they'd leave like grand exodus, and it was so sad to see them all leave, and then we had to wait till next April before they came back. But it was a very exciting time for me because I lived right there, and I could stop. I'd sit out on our sidewalk, and then they'd come and get me, and we'd go get an ice cream cone because there was a little restaurant right across the street, and that was fun they'd take me by the hand and cross the street and go over and get ice cream.
It's called Ma's Restaurant. Johnny Austin.
Yeah.
Now they live in Florida. We got to see them a couple of times.
Do you have any family memories of raising the kids and things that might have happened involving the tower? Was Paul ever a bad boy and went over to the park and did something really bad that we can tell everybody about?
We don't want to do that.
Well, if Paul was bad, he'd never let me know it.
Oh, one thing about A.E. Doolittle, he got away with murder. He could never shift. He had a 40 Chevrolet. He could never shift it. He grinded gears, and then where he lived next to it, non-lick ice cream, this way, there was a hill there, and he couldn't grind up that hill without grinding. So finally, he bought a automatic shift. And my dad says, "Oh, I see they bought you a car that you could shift now." But they always talk about A.E. Doolittle. That's my initials to A.E. too, but he got away with more of that, man. He did so many bad things that park did. But later on we found out that he was married to the Wisconsin State DNR. He was in charge of the Wisconsin Conservation Department. He married this guy's wife. I'm a daughter. The Advocate come out on Friday one day, and I come to the house. Janet says, "Look in the Advocate. There's something You should read it. Fair enough. It was an article in Advocate that he married. The guy's name was George Harrington. He was the head of all the parks in Wisconsin. So he married the daughter. He got away with the murder. Oh, Christ.
DNR's gonna love it if we put this in.
I don't know if
Just business as usual.
but OAE,
Right.
OAE, everybody knew
Very
OAE.
cautious.
Yeah. That's a funny story.
Why was there relation there?
That reminds me, I'll get off track a little bit about shifting. I drove school bus and that's in charge of running the fleet that. So we had a guy, he couldn't shift that bus. He'd go up a hill instead of giving her, he slowed down. And then he grind the gears. The kids would say, grind them till you find them, Phil.
That's a funny line, Brian. Until you
So
find
then
it.
we started finding the next time we bought an automatic. Everybody kidded about that they want a special bus for Philip. Now I forgot, I know. There was never a speck of dirt on that for that bus.
Where was the when you were raising all of your kids? Where was the family home in those days? Like in the
Gibraltar
50s?
Road.
On Gibraltar Road.
Still there.
No, Dad grew up in Gibraltar Road. The family, when they were married, is where Gibraltar Grill is.
Oh,
Well, actually, where Julie's is first of all, with the first floor, and then they moved to Gibraltar Grill
where the
is,
Gibraltar Grill.
and then halfway up the hill on the right hand side, next location, and Ephraim at Edgewater.
So the park, while you were raising the kids, was really close by the family house where
Yeah,
in all
right,
those
right
locations.
across the field.
Yeah, and so was the park kind of a playground for your kids as they grew up here in Fish Creek?
Were they what?
Was the park kind of the kids' playground? I mean, it was so close. Did they? It sounds like the park was a big part of your kids' lives,
The
probably.
beach.
They not people had bicycles, but they would walk in the park, especially every Sunday afternoon.
Yep.
That's
Although
right.
the tower is like quite a ways away. That's miles away from downtown Fish Creek. But
One thing that was an
But
attraction to the park.
there's a trail. Go up from comes to 42, goes right into the park. That the
Yep.
people walk to school from the park, near the tower.
Janet, you were about to say one thing that was an attraction.
One thing that was attraction was the beaches that we could use during the season, and we'd get together and see a lot of friends and make a lot of friends, and then you'd walk back out, and then as bicycles got to be more prevalent in the whole area, then the bikers would ride into the park, and there was a couple of homes in the park. One was the
Eagle's Nest.
The park superintendents, and then one of the workers that lived there, he had a home for quite some time, and then there were a lot of little smaller homes. There was a lady that taught jeepers,
Oh,
she playing the piano, and
it's music.
yeah, and
She taught Janet how to play the piano. And then
there
there
was a
was
lot of people that moved into the park. At that time, you could.
and then there was another shop lady. It was called the Owl's Nest. We got her. My dad built that too.
Yeah.
The Owl's Nest is cottages in the park.
It was a cottage. It was a
They were just
gift shop.
individual homes.
gift shop.
Now, Janet, you were born in 1928. Itsie, what year were you born?
25.
25. Okay, the same year as my dad. You, Al Johnson, and my dad were all born the same year, My dad died a few years back, but so they
Al
have
and I
a
were good
horse.
friends.
Oh, you were friends with Al? Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yep. So, Jan, do you have any memories or?
Even if he did yell at me at the school board meetings,
Oh yeah, yeah.
that man could yell. I had to
nice
approve all the
things.
bills
Just
for
say
the
nice things.
buses. So one day, the buses were like a bunch of tin cans, old and didn't have the money. Schools didn't have money. So I got the school board meeting, and that bill was pretty good size that month. And Al was sitting on the line right in front of me. Itsie, can you justify this bill? Just the top of his voice. Oh, God. We were pretty good friends.
Yeah, I'll bet you guys were friends. Yeah.
And then we built a restaurant top of the hill here. It was Sunday afternoon, Al Johnson was taking a ride, and he stopped by to see what we were doing. I built a restaurant competition, you know. So there was a pass-through window from the kitchen to the dining room. He says, Itsie, what's this window for? I said, serve the food. Right through the window, I have to go all the way around. Hell, that would now work my restaurant, he says. I yelled too much. He admitted he yelled. No,
So Janet, the tower was built, I believe, the second tower was built in 1933, and you were only 5 or 6 years old then. But do you have any memories of it being built or anything that was going on then when you were 5 or 6?
There wasn't, I had memories of it being constructed and going by and seeing how it had gotten to be more of a tower, but I didn't climb it at my early age because that was a no-no. So they afraid I would fall off and that'd be a casualty. So we just would go by, stop and look at it and admire it and just wish that we could soon be able to climb it. But it was really fun watching the construction because it was done in the time that we were able to go and see it. My dad would take rides in the park all the time to see the deer, to see the tower and the golf course and just everything. There was so many things that people could do, and the park was just an adventure to go and visit. And it was one of the biggest ones in the state of Wisconsin. And then there was a big, there was the, let's see, what was it? Potawatomi.
Chief Potawatomi.
That had
I was at that
they had
funeral. I was at that funeral. And I had a picture of all these Maltese. There's a green right by the clubhouse. And that green was all covered with cars at the funeral for Chief Potawatomi. Sunday afternoon in November. Just awful. Green, but it was in our house. But
I've seen pictures of that funeral. Yeah, yeah. Everybody with the Model Ts and all the old cars.
it's all Maltese. Yeah.
Janet, could you tell the story again about your going over to the tower with your brother, and then you said he climbed the top of the railing, and just explain all that story again?
Well, I wasn't really with them at the time but he came back and was telling me about the fact that they had climbed the tower, which I had been there some of the times that he was doing this, but this particular time when he climbed it and he walked around the top of it, in my mind it seems like I remember him doing it, but then I start thinking, well, maybe I just heard it so much that I was dreaming that I saw him, but he was very much of a risque kind of a person, and
He probably had a couple too many beers at Bayside. That was my uncle's. My uncle built the Bayside. I hung around there. They had a boy the same age as I was, so I hung around there a lot. They had good food. better than we had. Ice cream, they had 2 ice cream, we never had ice cream.
So Itsie, tell me more about your memories of your dad as a carpenter. What were some of the things? I mean, do you have any memories of him working his job and things he did?
Well, he built the Alexanders.
Oh, could you
And he
say
built
my
the-
dad built Alexander's, because people aren't going to know
And
who you're talking
my
about.
dad built the English Inn. That was a workshop turned into the English Inn, and he also built the place over in Village Harbor where our wedding was. Dance hall over there. And he did a lot of work at the White Gull Inn. Then Al Capone was there. That was called Welker's Resort, the doctor from Chicago. But he was too busy in Chicago, so he had a nice little lady run it. She's just like a midget. She was a little German girl. They were all Germans, and she'd run around that, from that whole resort that the Foundry Square was. That was all Welker's Resort. So Al Capone stayed at that resort there. So one day my mother cleaned her rooms. She's a room maid. Al Capone says to my mother, "Where do you live, Emma?" My mom says, "Oh," she didn't want to tell him. "Down the roadways," he said. But they found out. So one Sunday afternoon, we were outside monkeying around the bicycles and so forth, and here comes Al Capone with his gang. The old black Buick convertible, big hats on and cigars in each one had a cigar in their mouth. And everybody went in the house and closed the windows and locked the doors.
I love it. Thank you for telling that
Sunday
story.
afternoon. I never forget that.
Bill, what do you think? We got what we need?
How long did it take? When did they start it and how long did it take?
What else could I think about?
I don't. It's probably in that book. I haven't actually read that story yet to find out. But I know they built it in
Maybe
'33
it's in the
mainly.
numbers, though.
Yeah.
And you know that when you asked him to say that his dad built the Alexanders, he actually went to the next one.
It's in
Right.
English
the
Inn.
English Inn, but he did do the Alexanders.
Let's, that's. Would you mind saying that again? Just talking about the things your dad built, and start with Alexander's this time. My dad built Alexander's, and this, and this, and this. That kind of a thing.
He also built the.
Could you put your my
Can you
dad?
Can you start that from the beginning and say, because this is on the video, just
Okay.
say, my dad Emil built Alexander's.
Which was the rock.
Yeah, it was the Rock, but
And
nobody's gonna know what that is.
That was the Rock.
Yeah, so start from the beginning and say, my dad Emil built Alexander's.
My dad Emil built Alexander's. In, I think it was the 1800. I think that's Earl, I can't remember. Because Earl used to always say what it was built, I can't remember. And how come they built that place there? Well, Earl lived in Maplewood. And his friend, he owned the YN. So he went in the slot machine business. So Earl's dad he come from Brussels too. So they got pretty good friends with. The guy's name was Gus Jaden. He says, come up Fish Creek and build some taverns, because the prohibition was just getting over. So then the slot machines come. So this guy, he owned a YN, but he also went in a slot machine business. So they're all Belgians, so they end up first my dad built the Rock. And they opened it up on 4th of July weekend. And all my uncles and aunts, they all worked at A.L. Smith's in Milwaukee. So they all came up for the weekend of the grand opening of the Rock. Well, they had little kid that had a bike at the bicycle at the rock. So my uncles and aunts, they all got all jagged up, and it was a big dance hall. It was a dance hall, that's what it was. So we were going, running in the walls, breaking the sheetrock. What a time.
Do you remember how long a time? I think they built the tower, the Eagle Tower, mainly in 1933. Do you remember how long it took? Anything about how long it took to build the tower?
I don't imagine it's very fast. Now with the working conditions,
Yeah, with horses and cables and.
cables would break and
Yep.
very dangerous.
Who else helped Grandpa build the tower?
What?
Who else helped Grandpa build the tower?
Oh, Uncle Herman would be around there.
And who else?
Uncle Krause. Anyway, I'm Herman, because he had the horses right there, you know. So they need to do pull around. The horses stayed there all day.
Not to put words in your mouth, but would you mind saying something like, my dad, Emil, was a carpenter at the park and helped build the tower along with these other people, and just name who those people are?
Oh, my Uncle Herman would be the only one. Yeah, my Uncle Herman had a team of horses, so he worked around the park, on the roads, and so he also helped my dad build the tower, Eagle Tower. So then, right below the golf course it's called Crystal Springs, and my dad built two cottages down there for some people from Appleton. They were in, and the park let them build those two cottages. They owned them too, and so then I helped my dad all summer build those cottages too. Then they got two horses. So I worked around the stable. My dad built a stable there in the park their names are Hughes from a clothing store in Appleton. So they made little paths. I put the gravel on the hide my wagon and come with dumps gravel and bark on the walking paths, and put a little board, a log on the outside edge, and so I worked all summer for by that bicycle.